is in my blood. My grandpa had an elementary school education and ran his own barbershop for most of our lives. And I have a lot of childhood memories of visiting him at work and seeing him run his business. My mom also has had a financial planning business pretty much our whole lives. It's kind of like the OG on remote work. My mom worked from home my whole life running her business. And my brother even created a business when he was in university. He created a woodworking business over the summer. So very much in my blood from a familial sense, but I also really like to be able to forge my own path and move quickly. And while I'm an analytical person and I love numbers and strategy, I'm also at heart a creative person. And I love the feeling of creation and building. And then also, I think I also don't really like to be told what to do. I think I felt a little bit, because I had just finished an MBA before I chose to take a more entrepreneurial path. And I felt maybe a little hesitancy or confusion from my classmates a lot of them were going more of the corporate route. And I think that's more of a traditional route after an MBA. But overall, I think most people in my life know that when my mind is made up on something, there's not really stopping me. So I don't think anyone would have really tried to get in my way. And I do feel really blessed. Everyone in my life has been so supportive, even in the early days when things were rough. And sometimes it felt maybe more like my business was running my life than I was running my business. I really felt I had a lot of support and understanding. My parents, for sure. Growing up, my parents sacrificed a lot for me to have the opportunities I did. I was a competitive figure skater, and now as an adult, I can't undervalue the amount of time my mom spent in the car. We lived in Wellsburg growing up. I figure skated in Sarnia. So she's 45 minutes each way, 3 to 5 days a week, plus competitions. It's not an inexpensive sport either. So, I know there was a lot that my parents didn't get to do for themselves because of that. And I never felt like they ever pushed me in a direction or tried to fit me in a box. They just supported me and trusted that I would find my own way. And I know when I chose to take a double major in drama and communications, for my undergrad, a lot of people kind of thought that was crazy and challenged my parents on them, saying, she'll never get a job with a degree like that. What a waste. And they never once tried to change my decision. They just, like I said, always trusted that I'd find my way. I'm also very lucky to have found my mentor and my business partner at the time, Rob Dawson. He believed in me and invested in me really early. I started working with him when I think I was maybe 22 or 23, and he just saw something in me, and he challenged me and he supported me, and he taught me everything he knew. And I wouldn't be where I am today if he hadn't taken that bet on me and been that support for sure. I think when people would tell me about their horrible bosses and the places that they work, in equal parts, I felt, man, I'm so happy I don't have to deal with that. And then also, I feel very blessed that I can stop this cycle for some people, and I can be a great leader and a great boss and someone that people can rely on. And I really love that I get to be a part of my team's life in that way, and be a good boss to them and be their cheerleader. Yeah, all the time. I don't know if that ever stops. There's this meme that my friend and I share with each other. She's also an entrepreneur, and it's I'm excited. This is really hard. It's working. I messed up. And it's these just high highs and low lows, these peaks and valleys. And I really think if I don't stop and question occasionally and reconsider, that's what validates that I'm in the right place. There obviously hasn't been a time yet where I said, no, this is not for me, and I want to do something else. So I do appreciate when I I take that time to question it. Like, to be a great leader and a great entrepreneur, you have to know yourself so deeply. Like, you have to know what makes you tick. You have to know what's going to trigger you, why you do things, what you're good at, what you're not good at. And I think like really a deep investment in my personal and professional development and having an executive coach has been really critical to help me overcome that. Like, I never want to be my own limiting factor. Like, I am something that is in my own control. And, I'm a human having an experience as an entrepreneur. And if I don't really understand myself, I'm never going to navigate the other parts correctly. We use a strategic planning model. It's kind of a mix of two. One is called Traction and one is called the Gazelles model. And it's really frameworks of setting long-term company goals, annual company goals, and then quarterly goals for teams, for individuals. And like that filters all the way down to like weekly prep and looking at what are the top 5 things strategically I need to do this week to hit my quarterly goals. Because if I hit my quarterly goals, my department will hit theirs and the company will hit theirs. So there's this whole kind of like ladder effect. And I think it's really important for people to know the value that they create for the company and to be able to see how they personally help to move that needle. It also includes like really good planning for how to best structure a meeting, which we front load with metrics. I think it's always critical to like ground yourself in data at the right increments. So weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. So you have that objective view of what's going on. And as they say, what gets measured gets managed. So those are the two biggest things for us, like just a solid strategic planning model that can be felt and coordinated down to the individual level, and then setting the right metrics by department and reviewing them at the right cadence. Oh yeah, all the time, constantly. I do find as I get a little bit older and the world gets a little bit wiser, it's happening a little bit less maybe than it did at the beginning of my career. But I still think that there's this perception that women always have to be nice and smiling all the time, and everything we say has to be palpable, or you're a bitch, just to speak clearly. And then I think like when I cross the line to assertive, it's quickly seen as being aggressive. And that if I'm not just bubbly and sweet all the time, that I'm being edgy or I'm being moody or I'm being aggressive. And that's not true. Just I'm generally a happy and bubbly person, but when I have something to say, I say it, and I say it how it needs to be said. So I think that's kind of like an ongoing theme. But early in my career, this happened a few times in like pretty significant moments or meetings where like one example is I had this big strategy presentation for a client. It involved a ton of number crunching, a ton of strategy. It was in essence a pitch, but it had a lot of pre-work, like weeks and weeks of pre-work. And I was in the meeting with my business partner and mentor, and I had done the work. I'd reviewed it with him to get feedback, but it was very much like my pitch, my initiative, and he was just there as support. And the meeting was also with another man, the client. And although it had been said in the onset and was very clear that I had done the work, I would review a section and the client would literally like lean over and talk around me to Rob if there was a question. And then it would have to get bounced back to me, but then it would be a lean over and clarification. So it's almost as if like I wasn't there. And that's happened a few times, to be honest. And I'm grateful that I had a male mentor in my life who would understand when that was happening and try to dissolve it. But I think that's what happens sometimes, especially for young women, is you just feel like people are speaking around you, or that, maybe if your gender was a little bit different, that you would be perceived as like deserving a seat at the table rather than like being lucky to have one. I feel very blessed. Like I work in an industry with nonprofits that are largely led by women. And so I think that is, it's a little easier of an environment to be a female leader in, but I just think it's not intentional. People just have inherent bias, and like a white man sitting at a table who is 40 plus, like people just assume that that person is in charge. And yeah, that's not always the case. I think early in my career, I probably cared more about like big financial milestones or things like, reaching break even and stuff like that. And I think as time goes by, what I realize I care about most is people and being a mentor and a leader for people. I care far more about who I'm doing something with than what I'm doing at this phase in my career. My team, like watching them succeed and grow as professionals, watching them absolutely kill it in a meeting or write a phenomenal email or close a big deal, like those moments of their success just means so much to me. Like I'm so grateful to get to be a part of those moments, and I'm just always so proud of what they can accomplish. There was a lot of changes for our customers in the pandemic. So we're working largely with nonprofits that are doing some sort of poverty relief work or emergency food distributions. And I think a lot of people can picture the pictures that were in the media of these like long lines of cars doing drive-through distributions because people were losing their jobs or unable to go into work or their work was closed. And our clients had to change completely how they did their operations. So we also had to change how our system worked to accommodate that. We built this really awesome client enrollment tool where clients could self-enroll and sign up for appointments and distributions online. So almost like how in our day-to-day lives we moved to like click and collect at the grocery store, we created a tool to accommodate that. We actually blew up our whole roadmap during COVID to just react and accommodate what people needed. And we've also started to see a ton of additional interest in our product in new markets and new spaces because nonprofits really want to evolve how they're doing things. And I think the pandemic was a huge catalyst for that, of thinking, how can we bring more technology and automation and data into our work so we can make a difference in a new way? Everything and nothing, I guess. I mean, everything that I did wrong, I had to do to learn how to do it right. And like all of the early mistakes and challenges are part of how I got here today. So I don't think I could undo those. I'm glad there was challenges. I feel like I got ahead in my learning and development by getting through the tough stuff. If I could just choose one thing that I really would do differently, I think I'd just be a little less hard on myself. I know, 50% of businesses fail or whatever, but like it all works out how it needs to in the end. I would have spent more time like appreciating the journey and not worrying so much about the destination and like finding the joy in those stressful early days. I think I have like a different appreciation for that now. And I also do have now like an unwavering belief that I'll figure it out. Because I always have. And I guess, if I didn't go through enough challenges to know that and survive and come out on the other side, I wouldn't have that trust in myself. So now when, bad things happen or there's stress, like it affects me in the moment and it's challenging and it has to be worked through. But ultimately, like I know I'm going to figure it out. I know I'll find a solution. I really pride myself on like when things are exploding and there's chaos, like I want to find that silver lining and then I want to chase the silver lining and I want to, process and move past what is challenging and hard right now. But I want to like find that silver lining and everything and work toward that and take all of those hard moments or negative consequences and use it to something that is more beneficial. Do it because you can't not do it. Like do it because there's such like a deep passion or commitment burning inside of you that not going after it would be the worst thing. Like that feeling has to be bursting out of you. You have to really want it. Like for me, the social impact portion of what I do is so important and it keeps me really grounded in my why and managing those peaks and valleys. And like, I think starting a business just because you feel like you don't have another option is not a good enough reason. Like, you have to be fully invested in what you're doing, and it has to be a part of you. Like, you have to know your why and then chase that. Figure out your why, because on the hardest days and on the days when you have to make really big decisions to go down one path or another path, like, you have to have your why, and you have to be grounded in that for yourself and for anyone else who's working on that why for you. Everyone has to know why they're there and what they're working for.